What's going on, CHTV fans? It's Joseph Randolph.
Brian Maafi.
And this is your final episode of CHTV's Packers Draft Room. So we sat over the weekend. We stewed over it. We even took it on Monday. And we sat back and thought about this epic draft class that just came across of the 2024. What do you think about him, Brian?
Mixed thoughts, I guess. Some picks I like, some picks I kind of iffy on. But of course, they're Packers now, so we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Mixed thoughts. You don't love these guys? What's not to love?
I don't know. I feel like a few of them are reaches. A few of them aren't great fits for the roster and stuff, or for the schemes. My favorite was like the day 3 overall, but yeah.
Reaches. I don't know about these reaches, but we're gonna get into it. So I like this class. I don't really think I've really seen a pick. Well, maybe a couple picks. Royce Newman pretty much is really the only one. But I respect Goot's picks. I may not love them. I don't really have too many picks in his 6-year, 7-year, 10-year that just strike me as just like, oh, it's just a bad pick. But I like this class. It's not sexy by any means, and that's probably what's killing everybody. It's not sexy, but this is a good class. This is a good class, and it's a competition draft. All these guys are brought in to compete with the existing roster. So I'm excited about what they bring to the table. So. We'll get right into it though. So night 1, Jordan Morgan. What do you think about him, Brian?
I mean, I like him as a player. I like the fit. How do I put it? I like the fit with the roster and like being able to play in some blocking scheme and that stuff. My only thing is I felt like I know there were rumors that people were looking to trade up and get him, but I kind of don't believe those. Some of them don't make sense to me. But I think they could have traded down and still gotten him. And then I think he's still going to end up being a guard. But I like him as a player, like I said. But I think he's end up being a guard. He'll be a solid guard, But he's still, even though he's I think a 3-year starter or 4-year starter, he still has a lot of technical things he needs to work on with like his hands and stuff like that. Even Mike Wall did a really good breakdown of it. If people look it up on YouTube, you'll see it on his Process to Perform page. But yeah, he did a really good breakdown on some of his flaws and things he need to work on. And he basically says that he's probably not ready to but probably not ready to start as a rookie. And he even thinks, and I agree, that Walker right now is probably a better left tackle. So like I said, I think eventually he'll end up playing guard. I think he'll start camp at tackle, and then eventually he'll move over to guard and just probably battle with Sean Ryan at right guard.
Well, I respect Mike Wall. I love Mike Wall. So I don't necessarily want to agree with Mike. I think he can push Rashid sooner than later. I'm not saying day 1, but I think, let's say, give about a half a season. I think he can push Rashid. But nothing against Rashid. Rashid's going into his 3rd year. So, yep. Obviously, he's not just going to, lie down. But I think he can push Rashid for some additional time. I totally buy the logic there. Brian said he wanted to trade back. We talked about it in the predictions. We knew 25 was for sale, but the tackles just kept going. I thought Amarius Mims would be a Cowboy. He was a Bengal. So that was, a little bit earlier, but that didn't surprise me. I knew the Bengals were looking for a tackles. I thought they'd go wide receiver to replace T. Higgins, but they did that, I think, 2nd round. Yeah. But yeah, it was the Bengals took Amarius Mims. The Cowboys, who were they were in front of us. Yeah, they were 24th.
No, they
traded back, and which that was like the most odd thing when they traded back, because I was like, they truly had the rights to Jordan Morgan had, they just stayed where they were at. But then, we took him, and then they took Guyton.
Yep.
And the Bucks took Barton, and that's the biggest thing. The Bucks took Barton right behind us, and a lot of people are upset about that. But Barton is a center. He's
Yep.
a center center to guard versus at worst, like you said, Brian, maybe Jordan doesn't work out at left tackle and he becomes our starting right guard. That's cool. A tackle to guard is fine. A center to center is if Graham Barton doesn't pan out at center, then he might be in trouble for his career. And I said it. I think the Ravens were also looking at either Morgan or Guyton, and then once they were gone, they went with tiny guy, Nate Wiggins. So I don't think Morgan. You think Morgan would have slid to this? I don't think Morgan would have escaped the first round. Based on the way it felt, I don't think he wouldn't have escaped to the second round.
Hard to say, but I still think, like I said, because like looking at the Ravens, how they build their roster, I'm not saying. I think Guyton would be more of a fit for the roster and how they build their roster and the type of athletes they like to bring in. They like the big offensive linemen. So not that Morgan is tiny, obviously, but Guyton would be just a better fit for the roster. The Packers weren't going to take Barton. He's a center, like he was announced as a center. And Detroit traded up, like we all know, and took Arnold. And I don't think Dallas would have taken him either. Morgan, I think they would take. Of course, they ended up taking Guyton anyway. I think they would have taken Guyton over Morgan anyway, because again, he's kind of like the Ravens in a way. The way they build their offensive linemen is the offensive line. The Cowboys like bigger guys, so I think they could have traded down to 30, between 30 and like 34 or something like that, and still gotten him.
Well, we'll never know. But the only thing I will say, because Jerry Jones leaks his board. I don't think he knows he's doing it. Maybe he knows he's doing it. But based on that board, it looked like Jordan Morgan was over Tyler Guyton. So we would have been stuck with Tyler Guyton, which I was on my do not draft list. And like you said, maybe the Ravens would have taken him. And that's the other thing. Let's say, Cowboys took Jordan, and then now we're stuck with Guyton. Whether they wanted Guyton, I don't know. Would the Ravens have tried to trade up to get Guyton? And then the other thing that we haven't even thought about, the Chiefs said they wanted to upgrade an offensive line. Now, whether they were, obviously we don't really follow the other teams, but I don't know if they addressed, I'm sure they addressed the offensive line at some point in the draft, but that was the other thing. Between us, Cowboys, Ravens, Chiefs, that's just too many teams, in the works for two offensive tackles with first round grades. Actually, I had Guyton second round, but that's either here or there. That's too many possibilities. So I'm good with the pick. Brian said he wanted to trade out, but he just said, you know what? If we trade out, Jordan's not going to be there anymore. I respect it. Right?
Sure. He's the GM, not me. He gets paid the big bucks. I don't.
Yeah, he gets made the big bucks. I think it was a smart decision. It's better. I mean, this is that kind of draft. We talked about it overdrafted. I don't think Jordan got overdrafted though. I think we got him right where he's at.
I think slightly overdrafted. It's not like to me at least, not like a huge overdraft, but like
5 picks.
Yeah, like 5 picks. 5-6 picks. Not
such a travesty.
Plus, like I said, I think he's a guard. Like I think you could have gotten other guards in the second round and stuff like that. But that's just me.
Well, we'll see. Time will tell. We'll give him 2 years. We'll see.
Yeah.
So day 2, we had plenty of picks to go around, and this is the pick that got everybody happy, for a change. And we got Edgerrin Cooper. We got Edgerrin. Well, depending on who you ask. Because there'll always be the scandal about how the Eagles jumped up and snatched Cooper DeJean. How do you feel about that, Brian? Let's get that out of the way.
They didn't. Goody already talked about it, like at the press conference. He said they had that trade worked out like 2 or 3, like 3 picks before the pick. So before the Eagles had even taken Cooper. So they obviously weren't that interested in Cooper, which I'd been saying for a while. He just didn't really fit their scheme and kind of like their roster and things they like to do. He's stiff and this and that. So, it made sense. Like he wasn't going to be like, I mean, if he slipped to like maybe like second round or third round, maybe they take a shot at him type of thing. But Yeah, they weren't going to take him anyway. I mean, they knew he was there, and they're just like, no, we're good. We don't need to take him. So, yeah, I don't think it's a controversy or anything like that.
Yeah, had he slid to the third round, I think they might have bit. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Probably not. But like you said, it's a scheme fit. Iowa doesn't really translate to the NFL on the secondary. The front seven all day. Front corner secondary, no.
Well, they've had some guys that did good. Micah Hyde and Stone did good for Baltimore last year, and a few guys. And there's a slot corner. I can't think of his name right now, but it's not a slot corner from Iowa. So they've had some guys, but just some have been bust. Because it's just because they play like 90% zone. So
yeah, like traditionally, like Micah Hyde's probably one of the few defense, and Geno Stone's probably one of the few defensive backs in probably the last decade that really have panned out. I mean, obviously we had our issue with Josh Jackson, so which they should have known, but it is what it is. So, but Josh Jackson also had scheme and some speed issues as well. But either way, the Eagles jumped up, snatched them. It is what it is. Yep. We really don't, to my knowledge, we don't have any press whatsoever, no reports whatsoever that ever said the Packers were interested in Cooper DeJean. It was just the draft industrial complex saying, "Oh, he's great for the Packers," but the Packers never said he was great for them.
Yeah. It was just, especially when I think when they asked Goody about about DeJean in his pre-draft press conference, he's like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah." I kind of gave like a kind of vague, quick scouting report. I'm like, "Yeah, they're not that interested in him."
Yeah, he's a good poker player.
He would have been like, "Oh, he's a good player." Like he would have kept it like super surface level, super like not giving really much detail type of thing. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, like he's a good player, whatever, blah blah blah." Like, but no, he was like, "Oh yeah, he could play slot, he can do this." Da, da, da. I'm like, "Oh yeah, they're not taking him."
Yeah, he was hyping him up a little bit too much. I was like, "Yeah, he's trying to get something. Maybe he got the Eagles to give up a pick so that way can maybe bite them on the back end." Yeah, because he doesn't pan out. I think they did announce him as a corner. If he doesn't pan out in Philly, it's gonna get rough quick. They have zero patience, zero. If you don't know, go to Philly and turn on their Eagles talk radio. It gets disgusting really quick. But anyway, the real pick, Edgerrin Cooper, the number one linebacker. They traded back. And that was a trade in itself. Traded with the Saints. The Saints told the Packers like, "Hey, we're taking Kool-Aid." So apparently they were cool along Kool-Aid. Maybe it was the Jones fracture, or maybe they just felt like, well, I mean, based on the draft, they felt like they didn't need a premium corner, and they took Edge. I'm excited about Edge. I mean, the fact that we could get him so late per se is the word, at what, 40, was it 48?
45. 45.
45. I think that's fantastic, to get him, when we did get him. So, and then to get an additional pick, on the back end. I mean, there's really not much other than to say than, he's going to provide the speed. He's going to provide the flexibility. He doesn't have to come off the field at all, neither him nor Quay. So, and that fits Goody's mold. He wants guys, they're interchangeable, and Edge and Quay are interchangeable. And we're gonna see that pretty soon coming up. So going into the next pick, and I think we both said when it came to Javon Bullard, we felt like he was a little undersized, didn't we?
Yeah, for where they typically draft. Yeah, he's a little undersized. His arm's a little short. His height is okay, but yeah, his arm's a little short.
So, and we had the reports coming out that a lot of people consider him the best safety in the class. I don't want to say I disagree with that, but I guess because we envision Javon being a little undersized. When I saw the pick, I was like, nickel, nickel, which he might be. He may be. I mean, safety, nickel, predominantly plays nickel. You know, it's anybody's guess where Javon actually plays. I mean, can he really? I mean, he could even line up on the outside if they're bold enough. I wouldn't prefer it, but he could even line up on the outside in like an emergency, spot starter kind of case. But when they announced the name, I originally thought nickel, and I'm thinking, okay, the true safety has yet to be announced yet, and we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, I love the pick. I mean, Javon has a high IQ. He's going to be in the right place at the right time, and he's going to hit. Just like Edge, he's going to hit. I mean, that might be, when I thought about it, that might be the most exciting pick, in the draft, depending on how they play him and how he pans out. Yeah, Goot broke the mold. I have no issue with the pick. He broke the mold. He's a little undersized for what you said, but I think he can stick a strong safety. You think he's going to stick a strong safety, Brian?
Not really, honestly. I mean, he can play it, but I don't think it's going to be like a thing where he's playing, in the box, 70% of his snaps or anything like that. I honestly think he's going to end up playing mostly nickel, and then he'll play some post and stuff when they want to rotate McKinney down, or or give him a breather or whatever. But yeah, I think the majority of the time he's going to play in the nickel and the post, just because when you see him in the box, I mean he's willing, of course, but you see times where you can see where his size and his lack of strength and his lack of length even too is a bit of a hindrance in the box when he dives in there, and it's just like he just kind of bounces off dudes and stuff sometimes. But like, yeah, I like his play style. He's aggressive. But I think I just think he'll be a really solid nickel. And I think he'll kind of rotate with Nixon at nickel at times, depending on what they want to do, what the offense is doing and this and that. And, like I said, he'll play some post. He'll play a little bit in the box, but I think he'll mostly play nickel and post.
All right, so we're in agreement on nickel. Love it. I think if we're up, like, let's say 2 touchdowns or more, and obviously the offense is going to be throwing more, I can see him line back at strong safety. But my heart says nickel. And we'll see how it plays out. It'll be interesting. Keep Keyshawn healthy. Maybe move him to the dime role. It'll be interesting. I want to see how this plays out come preseason alignment.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't get a chance to mention was on Edge Cooper. I still don't think he's a good fit with Quay, because I think they're still both. I think they're still both weak side linebackers. So. I mean, I understand what Goody is saying about having inner linebackers interchangeable, but then the question is, both of them are better off on the weak side. Both of them are better off kind of just playing in space and flowing to the ball. And neither of them but they both have issues with, what's the word? Their vision and reading plays and being a little bit late on their reads and stuff like that. And neither of them has called defenses. Neither of them has lined guys up or made adjustments and stuff like that before. So it's like, my only question is, okay, who's going to do that, and are they able to do it effectively? But I think, honestly, originally I thought they were going to play Cooper in the middle and Quay on the outside. But not thinking about it more, I think Quay is going to be in the middle and Cooper's going to be on the weak side.
We'll see. And Coach Half, we trust. That was probably the biggest thing with Barry, is to be the quintessential linebacker coach. I didn't really see a whole lot of development from our linebackers. I mean, some very tiny growth. And I was like, what gives? Like, if nothing else is solid, our linebackers should be solid. You've been a linebacking coach for like 20 years at this point. Yeah. There should have been like enormous growth, but it never happened. So I trust Coach Half that he's gonna clean it all up. And we're gonna see a totally different Quay. Edge is going to do whatever Edge is going to do, and we're going to be happy campers. Another happy camper, well, depending on how you feel about it, is our next pick, and that's Marshawn Lloyd. Now, this one was probably the banana peel for me. I didn't think we were going to go with another 5'9" back. But to be fair, Marshawn Lloyd is not in the same build as Aaron Jones. He's much thicker, but the fumbling issues do remain. So I'm curious how that's going to play out. I'm going to reserve my judge as long as the fumbles get cleaned up. As long as the fumbles get cleaned up, I'm satisfied. We knew that running back would be addressed. I didn't think it was going to be addressed this high, but there you have it. Brian, how did you love it or dislike it?
No, I didn't dislike it. I liked it a lot. He's probably my favorite pick from day one, day two. I think he could if if Jacobs only lasts maybe two years or something like that, and he kind of breaks down or whatever, I could see him taking over as a starting back. He didn't get for example, he didn't get a lot of opportunities to catch the ball in the backfield yet. But when they did give him chances, he looked really good doing it. He still probably needs a little bit more work on his routes and stuff, but he still looked really good at catching the ball in the backfield. He's really quick. He's explosive. His speed is good. I wouldn't say it's elite, but it's still pretty good. He's got pretty good vision. He still sometimes tries to bounce too many things to the outside, where he just take the A gap or the B gap or whatever and just get what he can instead of trying to bounce to the outside and then losing, a yard or two type of stuff. But I like his fit. I mean, he still needs to improve at pass pro. That's the one thing he needs to work on. I think he's going to play. If he improves on that and he shows he can do it, I think he'll be playing a lot of third downs. He'll be in there third downs, pass pro, running routes, catching the ball backfield, carrying the ball a little bit. His crazy stat was he's averaged 7 yards of carry, which is pretty nuts. I mean, playing with Caleb Williams, of course, but even still, he had, I think, only 100-something carries this past season. So he didn't get a super lot of teams. There were games he had like 5 carries, 6 carries, and it wasn't because he sucked or anything, because they rotated their backs a lot and they threw the ball a lot. So it wasn't something that was his fault. But yeah, I do agree that the fumbling needs to get fixed. There was a couple fumbles I saw where it's just like he basically just dropped it. It wasn't like he was running and he was trying to get extra yardage and he was tucked in and the guy just kind of ripped it out and popped out. One of those things that it just happens sometimes type of things. There's things where he was running and just dropped the ball. You're like, what is he doing? Why? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. He just basically dropped the ball. But that was just a couple of them. The rest of them were kind of quote unquote normal fumbles. But still, you want to see it get cleaned up a little bit. But yeah, he is a little bit shorter than their usual running backs, but still, he's 220. He's got good build, and he's got good power. He'll use his power sometimes. He doesn't use it probably as much as he could. I think he could use it more. But he uses power, he uses speed, he uses agility. You'd like to see him use a stiff arm a little bit more. But yeah, I think he's going to be probably the third down back. Basically, I think AJ Dillon's going to.
Oh, Brian, where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
Yep.
Yeah, I think AJ might be a cut candidate. Dark horse pick. AJ might be a cut candidate. I'm not saying, people say, oh, Emmanuel Wilson's nobody special, but Emmanuel Wilson is cheap, and I think he's on the upswing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. And like you mentioned to Josh Jacobs, I think Josh Jacobs was a 2-year rental, I think. And then Marshawn's just kind of like the placeholder. I think our real back may be a 2025 selection. I could be wrong. Maybe a 2026 selection, but somewhere between there. Day 2 is a pretty good selection for a back, but I think we may get another one to pair with Marshawn maybe in the next year or so, depending on how Josh Jacobs does. If he gets hurt this year, oh boy.
Well, next year's running back class looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Ollie Gordon and
Ollie.
a bunch of those guys. If they all come out, of course.
They better all come out. All right. So the most polarizing pick of day 2. And look, Brian's shaking his hand because he's a hater. But for the real scouts in the building, this is the pick you love. And that is Tyron Hopper out of Mizzou. Now, he was number 5 on my linebacking list. I don't know. People were like, oh, in the draft guide, he was like 21. And I will give that scout a talking to sometime later this week. But I mean, honestly, there's nothing to hate about Tyron's game. Fast, see ball, get ball. He's got some hands. He's bad at some balls. He even has an interception. I think he took the interception to the house actually too. But his diagnosis is pretty good. Maybe even the best in the line. Well, no, McDuffie's a little bit better. But pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. I loved it. He was featured on Joseph's Gems, so I definitely love him. He's the hidden talent in this linebacking class. People talk about the missing tackles. First of all, people were talking about Cedric Gray, who missed more tackles than he did in a lesser division. But that's just me. But I love it between Tyron, Edge, Quay. They're roughly interchangeable, and that's going to be great for our depth. I just love this pick. This is probably the pick I got most excited about because I'm like, yes, that's it. We're set. We got Duffy. We got what's that other random dude? Whatever. I forgot his name.
Special
the dude
Welch.
that we just Welch. He's backing up. We're set. We're set. Yeah, we're set. Unless somebody gets hurt, we're set. And then McDuffie comes along. Somebody else gets hurt behind McDuffie, or McDuffie gets hurt, then we might be in trouble. I was surprised we didn't get maybe an additional undrafted free agent linebacker, but I guess Goody will figure that out as they get through camp. But go ahead, Brian. Tell him how Hopper stinks. Go ahead.
He doesn't stink. It's just they took him like about 2 rounds too early. Because I didn't see the instincts on film. He's a late reactor. He's a bit stiff in the hips. He's still more of a true Mike than at least the way he plays, I should say. More of a true Mike than Quay or Cooper, but he's undersized. He's 230, and he doesn't look like he can put on a whole lot more weight. I think he's probably going to be your Sam Becker eventually. I don't think this year. I don't think he's ready to be a quote unquote starter, even though Sam doesn't really play a super line and he barely plays anyway. But I think he's gonna be like the number 4/number 5 linebacker this year, and just mostly playing special teams, just getting a few snaps here and there on defense, just to get his ears wet or whatever they want to call it. Like he'll play. He'll dive in there. He'll play. He plays hard. And he's attacking. He's physical. But like I said, I just feel like the instincts are slow. He's not good in coverage partially because of his stiff hips. I think he may eventually just be a number 4 linebacker for his career type of thing, like special teamer, backup linebacker, which I feel like you take those in the guys on day 3. If his vision and instincts ever catch up, he's just going to be a solid special teamer and backup guy, which, like I said, that's like a day 3 pick. And I think even the consensus board had him as like a day 3 or day 4, or not day 4, 4th or 5th round pick. So, I feel like that pick was kind of a reach.
I mean, I did have him, to be fair. I did have him 4th round. But I mean, it's not a bad. I mean, it's not a bad pick at all. I mean, I think the next linebacker that went after Hopper, and I think this is what says, something about the testament of where he's at as far as on the clock, was Peyton Wilson. He didn't go for like another 30 picks, 20-30 picks, and people were well, we could have got Wilson. Wilson doesn't have an ACL. And he also has a surgically repaired shoulder. I don't want a linebacker with a surgically repaired shoulder, especially a shoulder he has to use every time he hits somebody. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. So, and
the one ACL he has was repaired as well. So he has one ACL.
Yeah, there was no way he was on. Now, if he was in the 5th round, I'd be like, maybe. but probably not even then. There's no way the Packers ever. I mean, and I want them to take chances on some guys with some injury history, but
they're not going to
having no ACL in the knee and having a surgery repair on the ACL in the other knee and then having surgery repair shoulders, that's just too much to come. Peyton Wilson might be, I don't know how old he is. I think he's what, 22?
24.
24. He might be retired by 27. You know.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He might be a one contract type player. So
might be a one season player.
Yeah, that's why I had him off the Packers board. And then his arms were short for a linebacker. So I was just like, yeah, they're not going to take him.
Yeah, and like I said, and Cedric Gray went like 20, 30 picks after Peyton Wilson. So I think the value was there. I mean, obviously, we don't know for sure. We'll never know, obviously, but I don't think Goop makes a selection unless, like with Jordan Morgan, he felt like if I wait till the 4th round and I had him on the 4th round, he's gonna be there when we pick. I don't think he would have been there. That's my story, and that's what I'm sticking to it. And even though we had the 11th pick in the 4th round, I mean, granted, the Steelers took Wilson at pick 101, so maybe the Steelers might have taken Hopper. Maybe we'll never know. But I do agree with Brian, and he's probably the stiffer of the 3. So maybe in base defense, I would probably move Hopper to the middle, and then I would have Quay and Edge on the outside so they're more dynamic. That's just me, especially like on a 1st down, 2nd down basis. And it really just depends on the coverage concepts that Half puts in play. He could have Edge or Quay covering, depending on what the offense is lined up in, and then just have Hopper lined up to spy the quarterback, which he does a good job of, and then also spy the running back, depending on if the running back leaks out. I'd be like Brian said, being a little bit more stiff in the hips. I'd be much comfortable with him taking the leaking out running back and then spying the quarterback then versus being on a tight end. Although he has shown ability to do that in the past. Time will tell. Time will tell. All right. So we traded up in the 4th round, and this surprised me. We took Evan Williams out of Oregon. I was a little puzzled. I don't dislike it. Sam Seal had a glowing review about him. He was named the best defensive specialist in the Senior Bowl with Javon Bullard. Whichever, I forgot which side. One was on the American, one was on the National. Yeah. Either way, but I mean that matters. I do remember his Senior Bowl game performance. It was, I don't want to say notable. It wasn't bad. It was I don't know, admirable. Does that make sense? Admirable. Yeah, I was like, oh, I mean, he definitely popped up on tape. That much, like as soon as they announced Evan Williams, my first thought went to the Senior Bowl. I was like, oh, okay. But I thought he was a little too slow for their standards, but we'll see. But he blitzes a lot, so maybe this is like a, I don't know, goal line, short yardage, something. Disguise defense, whatever. You send Evan Williams on a burner to the quarterback or into the backfield and just see what happens. What did you take of it, Brian?
I liked him as a player. I just was, at least before, they picked him, of course. I just was iffy about the fit with Packers, especially if they took Bullard. I think they're somewhat similar players, but I think what I've been saying is they're kind of like the inverse of each other. So like I see Bullard as more of a slot that can play safety, but I see Ed Williams as more of a safety that can play slot in a way. Of course, Williams is a little more stiff and not as fast as Bullard, so there's some limitations to that, of course. And of course, you can play him. He's probably slightly more of a box safety, but he's a little small for a box safety. Free safety, like. He'd probably be a good number 3 safety, basically is what I'm saying. I think he's probably a better fit in a split field safety system, but obviously we don't run that, but that's fine. But I think he's a good fit, like as far as a depth guy who can, he can play the run, he can play the pass. He's not elite at either of them. He's solid. He's kind of like in a way, like at least skill set wise, at least like a poor man's Adrian Amos. So he's okay at everything, but he doesn't have really any standout skills, if that makes sense. Obviously not near as good as Adrian Amos, and he's smaller, but like I said, like he's just kind of solid all around. Nothing really special about him that stands out. Again, not only athlete, he's kind of an okay athlete. He's a little small, but he's he plays hard. He does he's a good blitzer. He's a pretty good run defender for his size, even though he's pretty somewhat similar size to Bullard. He's like 5'11" though versus 5'10", but otherwise they're pretty much a similar size. He can play a little free safety. Like I said, he plays slot, so he's a good, like I said, versatile defender. You can move him around and do different things with him. I think just as a number three safety, he's a good fit. I don't think they really need to trade up for him, but other than that, that's not really too big of a deal. They probably could have stayed where they're at and gotten him. But also what his pick tells you is kind of what I was been saying for a long time is people were crying and yelling for Jaden Hicks. And I was like, he's not going to be a Packer. He's not their type of guy. Jaden Hicks is basically a pure box safety, at least, especially right now. His coverage skills were not great. He'd get himself turned around in coverage. He'd take bad angles, bad tackler, all that stuff. So it just kind of proves that, the Packers like their safeties to be versatile, be able to do a little bit of everything. They don't like the one position, like the one, for lack of a better term, box safeties, as far as like they fit in a specific box where they have a specific job, a specific role, that's what they do, and they don't do anything else.
I like how you put that. Bullard is definitely the pass, and Williams is definitely the run.
You put that.
Bullard, I give the versatility nod to. Evans, I'm like, I gotta see it. I gotta see it on. I mean, he did it at the Senior Bowl. Yes, I gotta see it live. NFL athlete action. I gotta see it. I'm not. Yeah, he's got to prove to me that he can be versatile. I don't know, but I agree on the trade up. I was like, because we gave up an additional fifth for that.
Fifth or sixth, something like that. Yeah,
that killed me. I was like, I think it was the fifth because the next pick we sat for like 50 picks, which is like 50 years on the live stream. It was rough. It was rough. But speaking of that 50 pick wait, the next pick, I was embarrassed because he wasn't on my board. I felt like, what am I doing? Am I even good at this? Should I even be doing this? Like, what's going on? Like,
what is going on?
I have no idea. It was like the Evan Williams thing. I can live. I was like, I don't know if he's a Packer type. Not necessarily the speed that I want for safety and coverage. I forgive myself for that one, although I should have had him because of the Senior Bowl performance. But Jacob Monk, it's crazy. This is my exact reaction. Like, Jacob Monk. And then I was like, Jacob Monk? I was like, Jacob Monk! Like, I don't have no idea where my brain was. He should have been like somewhere top 5 center, somewhere top. And I'm over here crying about Matt Lee, and Jacob Monk is not on.
I was sad about Matt Lee too, but I get the Monk pick.
I think he was the most athletic center in the class.
He was the better Duke center.
Nah,
I'm half joking, but
we'll see. I mean, I'm not. I might give it to you. Let's wait till we get to the end of the season. I might give that one to you. But yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, like instant center. Like Josh Myers is reserve. I mean, they're not gonna. I mean, they could put him on the depth chart as reserve. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, tested everything. Tested highly well. Like we mentioned with Myers did like 2 tests at the combine. The fact that Monk did them all, I mean, you have to do them all when you're possibly a day 3 pick. But
Myers is coming off of surgery.
If he can do the vertical, he could have did everything else. I mean, he could have at least benched. I mean, but that's neither here nor there. That's 3 years ago. But Jacob Monk did everything. I think he's going to push. I mean, that starting experience he's going to push. He's going to push early. I love it. I mean, if let's say Morgan becomes a guard, boom, set. Monk center, set. And then maybe we challenge Rasheed next year. We keep throwing darts at Rasheed, like, yeah, take this, take that, take that. And then boom, we got our starting 5. And now we're just trying to figure out who our backups might be. We just draft a 5th or 6th offensive lineman every 2-3 years. I love it. I mean, what's the dislike about Monk? What is there to dislike about Monk? Nothing. So with that, like, if you're not, let's say what?
Monk was on my board for the Packers.
Oh, well, thanks for not sharing the information there. I thought this was a team effort.
It is. Yeah, I gave you the link for my board.
Oh, well, I'm terrible at opening emails. So
it wasn't an email. It wasn't I don't remember how I sent it. I sent it to you, though.
Oh, you should have flagged it as important.
I think I sent it to you on Slack or something like that.
Oh, it's in there. Yeah. Well, that's another story for that.
I mean, and even
how Slack.
Even Mike Wall, he did a great breakdown of him on his channel also too. Yeah, I mean, what I saw that was kind of irritating though was on his film, just real quick, was Duke just jacks him around. Like there was games where he played center and right guard in the same game, and it wasn't even like Duke got injured and then he had to move over and he played that position the rest of the game. It was he started center and he played, I think, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 snaps, literally 3 or 4 snaps to center. Boom, moved over to the right guard. Okay, now he's at right guard. Right guard for like maybe 5-6 snaps. Boom, back to center. I was like, what the heck? And then literally he was back to center for like, I think 2 snaps. And then back to right guard again. And I was like, what the heck? And then he was at right guard for the rest of the game. But still, I was like, why do they keep jacking him back and forth? Like, that's why if you watch his film, he's a little inconsistent with his technique and stuff. They keep moving back and forth in the middle of games between 2 positions. But yeah, he's a center for sure. His arms are a tiny bit short, but they're not that short. His arms are actually a little bit longer than Myers, actually. They're like an eighth of an inch or a quarter of an inch, something like that longer. But yeah, I loved his film. I mean, I posted a bunch of clips on my Twitter, so if anyone wants to go check those out there on my Twitter, I posted a bunch of clips of him. Yeah, he's strong. He just needs to fix his technique issues, his hands and all that type of stuff. And what's it called? And that, I mean, even Mike Wallace, and I agree that he could eventually be a starter in like 2 years.
2 years? How about end of the preseason?
But yeah, I mean, if you watch his film, he's a good player. I mean, there's just some technical flaws he needs to fix, and why he was so low on the consensus board didn't make sense. It's just a few technical flaws that he needs to work out. It wasn't like he was a bad player, a bad athlete, or he lacked strength, or just like he had any sort of like weaknesses he couldn't overcome type of stuff. Yeah, I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, if there was a slam dunk pick of the draft for the Packers, it was Jacob Monk.
Yep,
without a doubt. So get on board, order your jersey. He's going to be around here for a long time.
Yep.
So, all right, next pick should have been a gem, but then people like Brian started talking about him. Aaron started talking about him. I'm like, well, there's no point in me writing about a guy that you're already talking about. I'm talking about the guys you don't write about or don't talk about. But it was on Aaron's crush list. So I'm really happy. We need to send him some Carry the G, by the way, so he can. I don't know how you don't have that for the draft. Well, I don't have it. I don't drink beer. But Kitan Oladapo out of Oregon State. Now, however you feel about Bullard, however you feel about Williams, I was like, oh, this is the safety. This is the safety. Oladapo has everything. Well, maybe not so much single high, but I mean, split strong safety in the box, dime linebacker, even I gotta see it at the pro level. But even like a little big nickel in him, like if you get like your Alan Lazards of the world, somebody lines a 6'4", 6'5" dude in the slot, put Keaton on him and just see what happens. Like this is actually probably the second slam dunk pick. I mean, there's nothing to hate. Watch his film; it is pristine, pristine. Ryan, you love it. I know you love it.
Of course, I've been talking, like, not even joking. I've been talking about him since like early 2022. Like, I think I pulled it up recently. I looked back through my timeline. I found a tweet about him from like I want to say like January or February of 2022 or something like that, or March of 2022, something like that. Before going in the off season, basically talking about him and then to the coming 2022 season. So I've been on him for like 2.5 years. Yeah, he's a guy player. I love it. I mean, he is going to be that proverbial, box safety. He can do other stuff, of course. He's not. I know some other people, some other some other Packers bloggers, vloggers, whatever you want to call them, have claimed he was like super stiff in the hips and he's only a box safety. And I've been watching the guy for, like I said, over 2 years. He's not that stiff. He's not as smooth as Bullard, I would say, but I mean, Bullard's 5'10", 200 pounds. Keaton's 6'2", 216. So it's not, you don't expect him to be that fluid. And if he was, he'd be like a first or second round pick. But his fluidity is fine. Like, I mean, I think I even posted this on Twitter too. Like, I think like maybe 3 months ago, something like that. But he can cover tight ends. Like, I posted a clip of him covering tight end, and it wasn't an issue. And it wasn't like just some Mercedes Lewis type tight end who runs like a 4.8 or anything like that. He was a solid tight end. I can't remember who it was offhand, but I mean, he can cover tight ends. He can play in the box. He can play, like you said, that big nickel. What do you call it? You play like the dime backer type of stuff if you want. Like you said, you can even play slot, or if they split out a tight end, or if they have like just some really big wide receiver that comes in there, he can play slot against those guys. Although there was funny, there's clips, if you look, there's snaps of him actually lining up an outside corner. It was pretty hilarious. But obviously he's not gonna play outside corner in the NFL unless it's like a thing where they line the tight end up out there or something like that, But other than that, yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think there's a good chance he's going to be your starting strong safety at some point this year. It wouldn't surprise me, if, like I said, if Bullard's in the slot, Williams is kind of your do everything backup type of guy, and Oladapo's your strong safety.
I love it. I think he's day one, strong safety number one. Depending on Stokes' health, we got Jair and Carrington on the outside, Bullard in the slot, and then you got a hefty, reserve of corners between, Stokes, Corey, Keyshawn. That's great, and then we'll get into the other guy in a moment. But yeah, this is probably after Monk. This is probably the slam dunk pick right here. I mean, get excited. I don't know what else to tell you guys. You're like, oh, he's a 5th round pick. He's a bum. This safety class was polarizing. Some people like him. Some people don't. It is what it is. But I'm telling you, we got a winner. For a guy that had to go up against Luke Musgrave in practice, I'm pretty sure he's going to be all right. So, all right, going down. This pick probably surprised me even more than a little bit than Evan Williams, but had to think about it. Senior Bowl, and that's Georgia State's Travis Glover. Originally a tackle, definitely going to be a guard at the next level. I don't want to say he looked great, but he was pretty good, despite the poor testing, which that took him totally off the board for me. I was like, what? I think it was in the 5s. I was like, okay, yeah, they don't want him. But I guess what we can grasp from this process is the Senior Bowl trumps RAS at this point, because I didn't think. I mean, you can take Evan Williams, you can take Travis Glover. Senior Bowl trumps RAS. I'm gonna just leave it at that. That's going to be a part of our process next year. So. I mean, Brian's going to say he's been watching him for 7 years, whatever. But
like a year on 7.
I mean, let's just go see what if he can beat out Royce Newman, I'm happy. That's it. If he can beat out Royce Newman, I'm happy. That's good. What about you, Brian?
That's not really saying much in being out Royce, but yeah, I mean he played right tackle at Georgia State. I have to check on my notes if he's played anything else other than right tackle. I think he did, but I can't remember offhand. But yeah, he's probably going to have to move inside. I think he moves a little bit better now because he actually dropped weight. He played last season like over close to 230. He was like 228, something 225, something like that. And the his pro day, he was like 3. He was like 317, something like that. So I think he's moving a little bit better now with the dropped weight. He probably could. And looking at his body from at least when he played, he looked like he could probably drop some baby fat and just pack some muscle on and kind of trim himself up. He probably could use another offseason of working on that also. So I think he's going to be like a quote unquote redshirt candidate type of guy where he's just going to be there. He's not going to really be activated for game days, unless there's multiple injuries type of thing. But yeah, he had tackle. He's obviously was a tackle. I think, athleticism wasn't great. If you put his RAS at guard, it's a little bit better. The numbers look a little bit better. But he's got good length. He's got good size. He's a bully. He's super strong power guy, which is kind of why I didn't have him on my Packers board. I was like, well, plus the testing too. Testing wasn't great, and he just wasn't really the Packers type. They usually don't go for those, bury you type of guys, grind them out type of guys. But yeah, I think he'll probably play mostly guard with tackle and emergency type of situation type stuff. But yeah, I think that he's just going to be a project for them. Like I said, they're going to try and work on him getting his athleticism up to try and get him in a little bit better shape. And, and they'll play him a guard, and he'll probably be if he can develop, he'll be like a decent backup guard who can kick out to tackle in emergency type of situation. So, I mean, I like him for at least where he was picked, and, he still has upside, still has potential. Yeah, dude, I think like I said, I think he'd be a decent backup if he develops.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia State is about as small as it gets for an FBS school. So, I mean, even comparing,
they're smaller FBS schools.
Yeah, I mean, like they're as small as it gets for an FBS school. I mean,
Jacksonville State.
Yeah, the resources between Georgia State and let's say, I mean, well, we don't really have any small school prospects per se, but the difference between, let's say, Jacob Bunk and Duke, resources are massively different. So to see what Glover could look like in a year, I mean, we could be talking about like monumental growth. I mean, trim a little bit of fat off, get stronger, leverage those almost 35-inch arms, just get all that cleaned up a little bit better. And we could have a menace on our hands. Definitely could have a menace on our hands. You were right, Brian. He's in the 6s as a guard. So, there, a little bit of conditioning, those testing numbers could be in the 7s, maybe by 2026. It's the sky really is the limit for Glover, after he gets into an NFL program for a little bit. So, all right. So our next guy, which I love, I can't believe he fell this far into the 7th, and that's Tulane's Michael Pratt. I mean, I thought Pratt would have been gone by, Spencer Rattler didn't go to 150. I thought between Rattler and Pratt, they would have gone like 1-2 punch, like, somewhere in the early 5s or 4s. But Pratt's still there. Sean Clifford better be throwing right now because Michael Pratt ain't nobody to play with. I mean, we joke about, he outdueled Caleb Williams in the Cotton Bowl, which is still notable. But Michael Pratt has some skill. This might be a guy between Clifford or Pratt. We might flip Pratt, who's a 7th round pick. He might get flipped for a 5th round or a 4th round pick if the right team comes along and they need a quarterback sooner rather than later.
Yep.
I mean, cannon arm can drop it in a basket. Maybe it's that Bayou Gulf connection. Kind of reminds me of maybe a little bit taller Brett Favre. He can sling it. Brian, you love it. You know you love it.
Of course. I've been on Michael Pratt a couple of years since I think his first year as a starter. It's like, well, not his first year as a starter, I should say, his sophomore year. Excuse me. Yeah, I've liked him, like I said, since then. He's continually improved every year. His accuracy really took a big jump last year and took even a little bit of a smaller jump this year. I wouldn't say a cannon of an arm, but I would say kind of more of a league average arm. But his ability to read the field, to go through goes through his progressions really quick. His ability to read the field, and throw with accuracy, throw with timing is really pretty impressive. His accuracy could get a little bit better, but it's still pretty good. And especially his ball placement is really good. He throws a really catchable ball. He usually keeps it right at the numbers. He's an okay athlete, decent athlete. He can run a little bit, which of course you like that. He's a leader. He's a hard worker. And he's definitely interesting side thing was looks like he likes to hunt and fish a lot in the offseason. So people were saying he'll be a really good fit in Green Bay, in Wisconsin. But yeah, I think I like him a lot. I think he's got a ton of upside. And I agree. I think they, in a couple of years, they could trade him off for like a 4th round pick. I think he can develop into a starter at some point. Obviously not a high level starter, but probably like 20th best starter in the league type of thing, maybe 25 at the worst. But I think he'd be a starter in the league if they develop him right. Like I said, he got a decent arm. I'm trying to think of anything else to say about him. He's a leader. Like I said, he's a captain. He's a hard worker. You just see he's got that fire in him when he's trying to push his guys and stuff and trying to lead his guys. He's got like all the right mental makeup you like to see in a quarterback. Just needs to develop a little more in an NFL system. Maybe being in an NFL system might be able to get a little more velocity on his passes, in the weight room and the offseason type of stuff. And then like Tulane, like that offense kind of fell apart a little bit this season because of graduation. Guys going to NFL. He had a good running back. Hughes was pretty good, but other than that, he didn't have all that help on that offense this past season. Oh, actually, wide receiver Brazil, but he transferred. But anyway, like I said, I like him. I think his developmental pick could easily overtake Clifford as a number 2 quarterback.
I love it. I can't wait for Tom Clements to get a hold of this guy. I mean, preseason will be must-see TV. As soon as Jordan Love walks off the field, I'm going to be critiquing every snap between Clifford and Pratt. I can't wait to see it. This is the quarterback controversy we want. This is what we want. Somebody might like him first preseason, like, hey, what's up with Pratt? You willing to deal? And be like, for a 3rd rounder, we'll see. We'll see. All right, last pick. And this could be the pick. We might get a reputation for developing or finding gold in the 7th round when it comes to defensive backs. Kalen King out of Penn State. I had him on my board, but I had him as a don't touch. But hey, in the 7th round, I'm willing to throw the dice. Last year, King probably would have been. I probably would have had him by 23rd, maybe 24, somewhere between 23rd, 24th, maybe 29th best prospect. And Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka turned him into their NFL draft highlight video. And it just went downhill from there. But like Dontavian Wicks, the Packers are betting on the 2022 film and not the 2023 film. If the 2022 film turns up, I don't want to say Super Bowl, but we just got like an all-pro secondary, like across the board. In worst case, if it does not surface back, then we got him for a 7th round pick, and we'll just continue to churn the roster and go from there. But I mean, he didn't necessarily test well either, and that probably killed him and probably plummeted him to the 7th round. But other than that, I mean, give him a chance and let's just see what happens. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, he's a lottery pick, basically. He's a lottery pick. You know, he could bust and be out of the NFL in a year, or he could. I don't think he'll ever be an all-pro type of thing, but or he could develop into a decent starter or something like that. The 22. I mean, even the 2022 film, there's still some flaws you see on film. His speed is obviously a question, and that speed is kind of on film. Or how he tested is kind of how he plays on film. He doesn't play very fast. You see him get beat, speed wise. His arms are a bit short actually. So, and he's about average size. I actually think he's probably going to be playing in the slot mostly. At least in Green Bay, I think he'll probably be in the slot and then probably a little bit on the outside as well, but mostly in the slot. But yeah, you see sometimes he's not super athletic, but he's got good eyes. He's got good vision. He just had a bad year this past year. I think honestly, at worst, you're probably going to get like a dime back out of him, which is pretty good value for a 7th round pick. I mean, if he just develops a little bit, works on some things, whatever. If you get just a dime back out of a guy and a guy who's your dime back for 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, that's pretty darn good value for a 7th round pick. And if maybe you get lucky, it becomes a starter type of thing. But there's still some physical flaws and stuff you see on film. But like I said, it's a lottery ticket. Maybe he pans out, maybe he doesn't. But like it's no very little investment, so it's definitely worth it. And hopefully he develops.
Yeah, I mean, a 7th round pick. I mean, if a 7th round pick makes it, I don't know. I'm assuming he gets a 3-year contract. If he makes it to the end of his contract, he's still on the team. Even if he doesn't get re-signed, that's success. Like if you make it to 3 years in the NFL as a 7th round pick, that's success.
Yep.
But yeah, I feel you on the arms, the speed. It definitely showed up on tape. I think they might try him outside first, and then move him inside. I mean, in preseason, I mean, what do you have to lose? I think camp preseason, see if he can hold himself up outside, and then move him into the interior. And then hopefully, like you said, he's got good eyes. The anticipation, I think, is decently there. So maybe like with a guy with high IQ like Bullard, like McKinney, maybe they can kind of coach him up along with Coach Half and the others on the coaching staff, and maybe where the athleticism is lacking, the intelligence and the know-how, the instincts are there, where he can be a viable football player. I certainly hope for the best, and hopefully he wears number 20 so that some of you guys can save a little bit of money on the jersey sales.
Oh yeah.
All right, that is our 2024 draft class. Before we get out of here, what did we learn, Brian? What did we learn?
Goody wanted to be a little more versatile on defense. He wanted to bring some more speed on defense. Excuse me. And he wanted to add some depth to the offensive line. And obviously he wasn't satisfied with the safety room. He wanted to, excuse me, completely remake the safety room.
Yeah, we got what we wanted. One where we got 3 safeties. We got 3 offensive linemen. We got 2 linebackers, which I felt like we could have got a 3rd if that trade up didn't happen for Evan Williams. But hey, I mean we got what we needed, and then whether you like it or not, we got a corner. So it's all there. And then lastly, Senior Bowl. You want to know if somebody might be a Packer, see if they got one invited to the Senior Bowl, and then see if they did good. And then also see if they started like 100 games in their college career. Because that's pretty much the similarities you'll see across pretty much the entire draft class.
Yeah, and I would say for next season, next draft, keep an eye on the cornerback class, because something that hasn't gotten mentioned much is Goody did mention that he was trying to take a corner early in the draft. It's just the way the board felt he didn't get one. So depending on how Stokes does and Valentine's does stuff, they may take a corner early next year. So just keep, for everybody else, everybody watching, whatever, just keep an eye on how the corners play this year. They may take a corner early next year.
He could have took one if he wasn't trading up for Evan Williams, but that's neither here nor there.
Yep.
We'll let it go. And he jumped up for Monk too, I believe. So
yeah, he did.
Well, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but hey, in Valentine and Stokes we trust.
Yep.
All right, we are gonna get out of here. I don't know what's next for us, but I'm sure the powers that be will keep us gainfully employed. So, Packers draft room is coming to a close. You'll see us sooner than later.
Yep.
So, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying with us for this draft season. And go Pack, go.
Pack, go.